I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. Really the best in customer service. They try to make sure you're fully insured, and they do a great job of saving you money. It's all at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Joined now by the outstanding Neal Coolong, who's doesn't waste time with the Aaron Rodgers watch, but he does have to cover it anyway. Welcome, sir.
That's great. I'm going to write that one down. Yes, that I think is probably the motto of the next, I assume, 6-7 weeks before the draft, which is, I'm going to guess, just call it past experience, of when Aaron Rodgers makes decisions on things. So it definitely creates a bit of anxiety out in the fan base, and we kind of sit and reword the same update every day. We haven't heard anything. He hasn't talked to anybody, and he might choose the Steelers. He might choose the Giants. He might retire. We don't really know enough right now.
Well, what struck me was the rather candid response of Cam Hayward on a podcast, and he kind of reflected how I feel about it. He says, I'm not going in a dark room to talk to him about this. He says, look, just make up your mind. It's like, I got to give Hayward credit. He was blunt.
Yeah, I think that's an understandable message. Now, I don't think it's one that says we'll refuse to accept Aaron Rodgers should he come in, which is probably what everyone's going to say. But I do think there is something to be said over, yes, you're right, you do have your choice. It's your career, it's your body. We understand taking your time, but at the same time, you probably should know by now. I think it's reasonable. Beyond a couple days, I don't think it's too much to ask. And outside of the fact that clearly Aaron Rodgers and his skill set is worth infinitely more than mine is, I don't get to wait that long on something. People want to move on. There's a lot of different things that come with it. I think, to me, it's more just disrespect than anything. And I think that's kind of what Hayward's saying. People need to know what's going on. People need to know what your decision is. I think you owe them that professional respect. Rodgers doesn't seem to feel that way. I would say, I would suggest, though, that I don't think even Rodgers would play this out so long if he was planning on retiring. So at the very least, you know that there is a decision that's going to be made. But maybe to an extent, the decision will be made for him. At what point will the Steelers blink? At what point will the Giants blink? Somebody's going to have to do something at some point, because it's not so much that they want or don't want Rodgers. It's that they're not going to wait around too much longer for him to make a decision. They're going to have to get something locked in, because they can't wait until April and then go scrambling for a starting quarterback. That's just a bad look for everybody. And I would hope that's something that he knows and respects.
Well, I think what I'm going to sense is, when it comes to Cam Hayward, and I think he speaks for a lot of people right now, like, you can't have a guy that appears to feel like the earth orbits around him. All right? you're okay. You're 40 plus years old. Make a decision, because guess what? There's a lot of dominoes that need to fall, and people may just say the heck with you, and they're going to move on from you.
I think that's the main issue. At some point, that's going to happen. And if Rodgers doesn't think that that's inevitable or it's all that big of a deal, well, I'm not sure what to tell you. They need to move on. It's a business. They need to know what they're doing. And it kind of gets closer every day to, well, what do we do if he doesn't sign? I don't know what the backup plan is for either of those teams, short of Russell Wilson. I would think Russell Wilson would be kind of annoyed with the Steelers right now if this is the path that it goes down, especially considering what that would mean is Russell Wilson then has much more leverage, because there really isn't anything else. There's a rookie in a draft class that's not particularly good, or there's a veteran that wasn't a starting option last season, let alone this season. So if anything, I would say it's kind of, and maybe Cam is putting that out there. This is just my insight, not, reporting anything, but maybe he understands that. Maybe he's thinking, you know what, we're okay with Russell Wilson. If Rodgers doesn't want to be here, then fine. There's a guy here that does. Why don't you go sign him? At some point, the pressure is going to get put on the Steelers to make that decision. And I don't know when that day is, but there's only so much of this that I think a professional organization should have to deal with, let alone an NFL team that's probably offering $16-17 million. I would think he'd have enough or what he needs to make a decision by now. More than that, to me, is just grandstanding.
All right, so now we get to this point, because pro days are happening. Penn State's pro day will be a week from Friday, which means we really start turning in earnest to the draft. Positionally, in the first three rounds, what do you think the Steelers need to address, at least with one of those three picks?
I think defensive line is probably the top need for the sake of the future and the present. They're going to need to fill in a little bit more. They just signed Isaiah Loudermilk to a one-year deal, which is not exactly a real solid, sure thing. It may as well be an invitation to camp. It doesn't mean that he's locked in. I think, though, that bolstering what they have with that unit, with the release of Larry Ogunjobi, which may or may not have been tied with the fact that he failed a PED test and is suspended for the first 6 games of the season, they need somebody that can come in and play right away. That would be my guess. And it's probably the most pressing need as far as a day one impact player. Now, you could say, too, that if a phenomenal player falls, maybe that changes their mind a little bit, but they've got to get somebody that could play right away, considering they don't have a second-round pick. Assuming they don't get one between now and the draft, you got to think that the most solid option that's likely to be available at 21 is going to be defensive line. Now, I would argue, though, that I don't think people saw an offensive tackle going to Pittsburgh last year, and things happened within the draft that kind of screwed things up. And I don't think Troy Fatanu should have gone 20 overall or wherever it is the Steelers drafted. Probably should have been a little bit higher. I think he was, a little bit of a victim of 6 quarterbacks getting taken in the first 12 picks, which was not anticipated by anybody. So, barring a situation like that, I would imagine defensive line is really what they would want to target. It's a good deep position. Even if 4 or 5 of them are drafted, I think there's going to be a good one available at 21. And overall, that's really probably the biggest position in need. I would argue, just considering the situation with George Pickens in terms of his contract, wide receiver is going to be one as well. Luther Burden from Missouri is a guy that a lot of people seem to downplay. Yeah. I don't quite understand why he wouldn't be projected as a first-round pick, but I really like him. Matthew Golden from Texas, I think, is another guy that probably should maybe go a little bit higher than where the Steelers are, but it's possible that he's available. I would have a tough time passing on one of those guys, but you get a guy like the kid from Michigan, the defensive lineman Graham. If he falls, he's somebody good. I think that fits in well with what they would want to do. Probably not a 3-down starter as a rookie, but if they can get a good amount out of him, and the Steelers have gotten a lot out of a lot of defensive linemen over the years. If they could get something from him, I mean, he legit could be a top 10 talent in the class. So I would think their focus would be those two positions. But the key one, and people are gonna go crazy over this, running back is a need. That's a position they're going to address at some point. And it's a very good running back draft, but without that second-round pick, you're really looking at, do you want the top or do you want the middle? You know, that's really where they're going to be. The kid from North Carolina, I watch him play, and honestly, the thing I think of most, I don't think there could be a running back that's more Mike Tomlin than this guy, which also means he's probably not a burner to the outside. I don't know how good he is in an outside zone type of scheme, but he can run for power. He does a good job. He's got real quick feet, big body. He's the type of guy that can, punish you on the outside, but not a guy that's going to beat you around the corner. Is a guy like that worth 21 overall? In a lot of ways, I think it is. But I would argue, and you and I have talked about this a bunch, the guys at the top of any perceived overall value among running backs in the NFL are guys that are coming in. They don't need 65 snaps a game to make an impact. They're making impacts on a play-to-play basis. Is that what this team needs right now from a first-round pick? I'd probably say not, but I think Mike Tomlin would absolutely love to have that guy. He's just everything about him, the way that he runs, his attitude, everything seems to be very much a Mike Tomlin type of running back. And I'm not predicting it, but I would not be surprised if it's him at 21 either.
Yeah, because you saw about Omarion Hampton, by the way, from North Carolina, who's a junior entry into the draft. He's the kind of guy that, to his credit, when you watch him play, he gets through narrow areas. Like, he doesn't need big holes to get through. He's really impressive. At some point, Travion Henderson's available, and the other guy is Cam Skattebo. Where these guys do a lot, Henderson, I think, is a big play guy. And if he's sitting there, because Genty will be the first running back to go, but if Travion Henderson's sitting there, and they made a phone call and said, what do you think? I think the guy's got big playability. The question for me is always going to be his durability. He'll always miss some time during a season, but when he gets his hands on the ball, he seems to make a big play every game.
What I get with him, and he's a great one to bring up because I think he fits in line with a modern NFL running back, as in really the last 5 years. It's instinct, and I don't know what that is. It's not something I think you can define by measurables, but you get him on the field, he finds daylight. He runs to daylight. He knows where to go. He knows how to press his advantage physically. He knows how to press leverage against the line of scrimmage. It seems like he is a natural when he's out on the field. Now, is he going to test as the greatest athlete you've ever seen? Maybe not, but I do think there's a lot to love about the idea of just, give him the ball, show him where the gate is to make sure you can get on the field on time, and let him play. I think a guy like that definitely tends to succeed in the NFL on a per carry basis. Now, they're not really. I mean, there are 3-down running backs, but they don't have the value. The offenses are setting these guys up in space to make plays. And a guy like Henderson, with the vision that he has, I feel like it's a good investment. He's definitely a top 40 draft pick, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to fall lower than that. He's somebody, absolutely, I think that you should take. And Skattebo is interesting as well. I don't think he's quite the, unfortunately, you get every stereotype imaginable with him just for, kind of the rarity of who he is with the position. But you're looking at a good all-around back. He's very quick. I can see him being a very effective weapon within the right scheme. He's going to be a scheme fit type of guy. You think Kyle Shanahan, San Francisco, I think could make hay with a guy like that. Should they have the need, but I don't think he necessarily they've got a lot of needs, obviously. Running back might not necessarily be one of them, but a very talented player. I think for obvious reasons, a lot of people are going to say, he's a Pittsburgh guy, blue-collar, lunch pail type of guy. Whatever. I can say this. He's a guy I think at the NFL level can get you tough yards.
Yes.
He's a reasonable receiving option. I don't know if he's a high ceiling type of guy, but probably a round 3 type of back. I could see Pittsburgh, if they still had the need for a running back at that point, I definitely could see them giving him a look.
Yeah, if you're talking about ceiling, Skattebo, I think, is close to it now for him.
Yeah.
Okay? But what I like about him is he's tough, right? He's got no quit in him. He actually has good hands as a receiver. But, man, he makes a lot of people miss. I mean, people miss tackles on him because I think he's got great balance and his feet are quick. People miss, and he's got some power. And above all, he's got patience. And that's something that part you can't teach.
I agree with that 1,000%. I won't say the name, but there's somebody that jokingly said, Skattebo makes guys miss because guys are coming up to him and not thinking they need to do much to get the white guy with the ball down. But he's deceptively quick. He has very quick feet for his size. And if you look at him, he's kind of cut odd. He's really thin, really narrow at his feet, but he expands quite a bit as he goes up. And with that, if he's got that balance, I'm absolutely in no way comparing him to Jerome Bettis, but Jerome Bettis had a similar type of thing. A big upper body guy with really thin ankles, really quick, light feet. Skattebo is like that in the open field. You can see it. He cuts horizontally a lot better than you think that he would. And I think there's something about the size that he has in his shoulders that makes you think he's not really moving all that much and there's not much he can do. But he can shake you off of him, but he can make you flat out miss. And I agree with the patience piece of it as well. He's a smart football player. He knows what to look at, and he's finding daylight. He finds the areas of where to go. And from there, he's not the easiest guy in the world to take down with just one guy. So if he gets through the line at the college level, at least, he's still moving for another 4 or 5 yards at least, and that's a valuable asset to a quick game, a short yardage game, goal line, all those things. He can help accentuate a team that's looking for an impact player in that regard. And Pittsburgh Steelers are the definition of a team that cannot win in short yardage situations, and that's costing them games every single year. They have not been able to figure that out, whether it's the line, whether it's the back, whether it's the play calling. They've not been able to get in sync with all of that and have consistent success short yardage. So a guy like that I think could definitely help. Now, are you going to spend a third-round pick on that? Personally, I think you should. I think the value is there for that. But it depends on what else they're going to do between now and the draft and really what they do with their first-round pick. But I think he's a viable option as well.
I'm going to ask you something. The guy that's been polarizing, and I think in part because it's his dad, and that's Shedeur Sanders. What do you think of him?
Unfortunately, I think Shedeur Sanders has to answer questions before other people do. Mm-hmm. And in that, they're not looking at the skill that he has. They're looking at, are you like your dad, who we don't like for one reason or another?
Right.
Are you going to be a leader type, or are you just all flash and basically all sizzle and no steak? If you can objectively take that out, and I would hope, if not trust, that NFL teams do this, what you see with them is a very savvy football player. Mm-hmm. I did not see a guy who made a whole lot of mistakes throwing the ball, and he's operating out of a pro offense. There are a lot of different looks that he had to throw to. He had to read defenses probably a lot faster than his peers did because protection just didn't exist on that team for 2 years. He had to make decisions faster than everybody else. I think you saw last season glimpses of what he would be as a rookie in the NFL just because of that. And I liked it. Now, at the same time, I don't feel it's smart to be 100% traits guy versus 100% film guy. I think you marry the two concepts. What you see with him, he doesn't have great traits. Great traits would be, the one that always pops out in my mind is Jameis Winston. If you saw Jameis Winston when he was a freshman, sophomore in college, before he was number one, That's a guy that's on the rise. He had more arm talent than anybody. Just a cannon, great touch, great feet in the pocket, big dude who could move. Career probably didn't quite work out the way that he would have wanted, but it's solid NFL career, if not unspectacular. Shedeur Sanders does not have those tools, but I gather he's a much smarter player than Jameis Winston is and was. So I see somebody that you can build with, but you're going to have to set him up a bit. You're not going to get the Trevor Lawrence 18-yard outs on a rope to pulverize a defense. Right. But you're going to get a guy that you can put in an offense that's not a one-read and react kind of thing. He knows how to read high to low. He can analyze the field. He can see where the ball needs to go. Mentally, I think he's there. There's a lot that I really like about him. Physically, I don't think that he has a great arm, and that's I don't think that's even really all that debatable. And contrary to his bloodline, I don't think that he's an elite athlete either. He's a good athlete, not a phenomenal one. What I see in a lot of ways is Baker Mayfield. And I know that's a crazy comparison. He's not nearly as kind of spastic and emotional as Mayfield is. Take that out. What you have is really kind of the computerized, mechanized reader of the field, distributor of the ball within the offense. He can make plays. I'm not saying that he can't, but he knows where to go with the football. So to me, I think he is advanced early on more than say Cam Ward is. Physically, though, he's not Cam Ward. I mean, Cam Ward's a much better physical prospect, and teams would probably rather have Ward overall than Sanders. But I will say this, just in context of the conversation, if Shedeur Sanders was available at 21, I think Pittsburgh would take him. And I think they'd be really happy about that. That's a pretty good player to get at 21. There's a lot to like with him. Now, is he going to be, Josh Allen? Probably not. But there's a lot that he can do to be a very consistent, dangerous quarterback, just in the sense that it's tough to rattle him. He knows how to play within what he's doing. He's a leader. People like him. He's contrary to public opinion that's based in nothing. He's a team guy from everything that you hear.
Yes.
I think he's ready for the heat of the position. And with that, that makes him a little bit more advanced. I think he's a little bit more mature than a lot of other people would be. Yeah. I think he'll have a decent career. I mean, from there, it's hard to say now I can pinpoint the reasons why he'll fail or succeed. But you're drafting the potential of it. You're drafting to get a guy in the building and teach him. What can he learn from this? How is he going to grow? How is he going to take to everything? I would think he's a pretty solid bet. That's just me. In a better quarterback draft, he's not being discussed in top 3, I'm sure. But there's a lot to like about him.
Yep. Short to intermediate throws, incredibly accurate. Longer ball, okay. All right, that happens. Not the greatest runner. High football IQ. Yes. High football IQ, right? He's not going to force it. He only threw 3 picks last year, right? And
he threw a lot. Keep that in mind. The entire offense was him and Travis Hunter. He threw the ball a lot and did not make mistakes with it. That's impressive. They asked him to do a lot of things. And
tough as nails. He takes a beating and he keeps getting up and doesn't leave games. So those are the pros and cons I see with him. My friend, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
And Neal Coolong joining us. Half hour brought to you by our great friends at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. They'll also save you money here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The Beverage Supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
When car repairs get difficult.
Well,
I just don't know.
Me neither.
We get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory-trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.